What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Saints and Sports Media Podcast. We're your hosts, Hunter and Michael. Wanted to come talk to you today, a little bit of bracketology, but we got some breaking news. Kind of just came out this afternoon. The WAC and Utah Valley are having some real, just back and forth about everything. There's probably more to it than what we understand. However, the press release and everything right now shows $1 million outstanding balance for Utah Valley, who's leaving to go to the Big West. And with that, they're not eligible for conference championships or anything like that right now, which subsequently means there's not a chance they're making the NCAA tournament unless this is turned around. Mike, What are your thoughts?
It's an unfortunate situation for the kids and the staff. I mean, that have little to do with it, you know. And in a little bit of ways, the conference is kind of cutting its own toe off despite its hand, so to speak, however the phrase goes, in a way.
It's as long as Cal Baptist gets that bid, it's not necessarily a downgrade per se. However, of the 7 teams, you've now just taken a chunk of the good teams out of that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, but, they clearly, by a pretty wide range, have the best predictive metrics and will be the most likely candidate to land a 13 or 14 seed and potentially pull an upset.
Yeah.
After Cal Baptist, it goes down to a couple of teams that might get a 15, and then further down, it's like if they happen to win it, it's going to be like they'll be in Dayton.
Yeah.
So if you want a chance at a team to pull off an upset or two, the best one, they're basically kicking out.
Utah Valley is probably the only team that would get a 13, in my opinion. Cal Baptist, I think, would have a real shot at the 14 seed. Just kind of looking at some comparisons on the back end, there's a shot. Best thing for them is they don't have any Q4 losses right now, so that really would have helped prop them up where Utah Valley does. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, UT Arlington 15, Utah Tech 15, Tarleton, Abilene Christian, or Southern Utah are headed straight to Dayton to play one of the 16 games. So, yeah, I mean, brutal for the conference and could have bigger financial ramifications than just the $1 million that they're fighting for. Because if Utah Valley were to get in and pull off an upset, which obviously not a guarantee or even likely, but if they would, that's a ton of money that the school gets and a ton of publicity, which is the bigger issue.
I mean, it's tough, and maybe they'll come to some sort of agreement before then. I mean, they got about 4 or 5 weeks to do so.
And I would almost argue they will. I have a feeling this is a lot of press to just kind of force their hand, and it's somebody forcing somebody's hand. I do not know who's going to cave or who's the aggressor on this. I don't know enough of those details to get into it, but definitely something to keep an eye on and a significant development throughout brackets across the country.
Mm-hmm.
With that, what's been your biggest takeaway from this week? Mine's that Michigan and Kansas are actually really good. I don't know about you.
I mean, that was an incredible finish between Kansas and Texas Tech last night. It sure looked like Texas Tech was going to get that one until the end, and
Peterson he showed exactly why he's projected so high.
It really, not completely changed Kansas's resume, but it sure, enhanced it to the point where, I mean, we're looking at a 3 line instead of not long ago we were talking about 5 and 6 seed.
Yeah. Before they played BYU and then before they played Texas Tech, I had them as a 5, kind of hovering there in that weird area. Now they're clearly a 3 seed. The BYU win was enough for me to jump them up to the 3 line, mainly because we didn't have enough 3 seeds. We had a bunch of 4 seed resumes. Now I've got them as a 3. They'll probably jump Michigan State, maybe even Purdue on that 3 line. So those are 2 huge wins, especially the one on the road against Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, puts them right up there in that kind of like top 10-ish as far as resume metrics. I mean, they got 5 Q1A wins. Yeah. One of the best schedules and strength of schedules in the country. So
that's the biggest thing for them is that strength of schedule is just so freaking good. I mean, they've got 5 losses, and 4 of them are quad 1A, and then the other one is just quad 1. Like, you don't have that out of a lot of these teams. Even your Dukes, I mean, they only have the 1 loss, but it's just is actually quad 1A as well. But Like, you just don't see that out of a lot of teams not named Duke, Arizona, Michigan right now. Obviously, Arizona doesn't have a loss. Do you think Arizona loses? Do they go the regular season without losing a game? What are your thoughts?
I think at some point Arizona's going to get picked off.
Agreed.
I do. I mean, Arizona. They still got some tricky road games. I mean, they still got to go to play Kansas on Monday next week. They still got to play Houston. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Um,
They have Houston at Houston as well.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that one more so. Is both of those are on the road.
Yep.
The way Baylor's looked, that'll probably be a cakewalk, but you never know.
I mean, they have two more with Kansas. They have Texas
Yep.
Tech. They get BYU at home. I mean, none of these games are easy. Iowa State's down there. You've got Baylor, Oklahoma State, Colorado that are easy wins. But those other ones are going to be tough. I mean, yeah, they're favored by 10 and 11 points per Torvik or KenPom, but still not going to be easy.
I think they can take a loss and still be the number 1 overall seed. Maybe 2.
They can, 2 losses and they're the number 1 overall seed. 4 losses and they're still a 1 seed. 5 losses and they're probably going to be a 2 seed would be my initial guess.
I just don't think UConn and Duke are going to be able to pick up enough quality wins to overtake Arizona, even if they maybe Michigan has an outside shot, but they'll have to basically run the table too.
Yes. I mean, Michigan has a Q2 loss, which is just brutal. I would say Duke has the best shot just looking at it from like an overview, and that's just because they have the 5 Q1A wins. However, what's next? Like,
I mean, they got to go to Carolina this weekend too.
They go to North Carolina, but then after that, they have a neutral site with Michigan.
Yep.
Great scheduling from both of those teams.
Yeah.
Duke could definitely get there. Outside of that, Duke or Michigan is probably your only 2 that could really overtake them. And Michigan, you said run the table. I don't know if they necessarily have to run.
Maybe not,
table, but the only loss you can probably take in that is at Purdue, and that includes beating Duke.
Mm-hmm.
They get Duke and Purdue back-to-back, a Tuesday and then a Saturday. That's impressive.
So I do think Arizona is going to lose a game or 2 before the end of the regular season.
Fair enough. What about Miami of Ohio, the other undefeated team? We might as well go ahead and just rip the Band-Aid off and get this going.
I don't think any team is going undefeated in the regular season this year.
Fair. Does Miami lose in about an hour and a half? They play Buffalo.
No, I think they'll get past this one. I just think that the pressure for Miami, Ohio, clearly has been on their mind lately. It seems like it anyway.
They struggled at home against these record types of crowds for their school as well.
Yep. And they're struggling to defend. And if they continue to do that and they have a really, really off shooting night, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, look at Louisville this year. We thought they were going to be so good because they could shoot so well. And then they just couldn't shoot that well. I mean, they stopped shooting as electric as they were. And then suddenly they started losing. Miami's not necessarily the same case, and they've obviously built a great resume at this point. But 22-0 and overtime and all of the other stuff they've had recently takes a lot of luck as well.
I know they beat NIU by about 25, but they went on like a 25-0 run or something at one point in the second half to do this.
Yeah, like 32-8 to close the game or something. So I mean, it was good, but it took a while to get good. That one was close even in the second half there for a little bit. Figured I would just go ahead and mention them, though. Go ahead.
Looking at this 1 and 2 line, the 1 line feels pretty standard. Illinois has really propped their resume up recently with some of their big wins. The Purdue win, that was really important. They've gotten some of these big wins without Boswell, so that's important for them. Houston coming on lately. Iowa State, after a pretty bad performance against Cincinnati, has come on with a couple of really good performances. Absolutely crushed was it Oklahoma State.
Yep.
So Nebraska, without not fully healthy, has taken a couple of tough losses, but they've been right in there.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what to do with Gonzaga. One of the issues that they're having is some of the wins they got early on in the season just aren't as good as they thought they were going to be.
Yeah. They've got
And
metric averages of 11 for resume and 10 for predictives as well.
right,
Sorry.
which so 3 seed teams are about right. Purdue, Michigan State. Michigan State, we're gonna have to see how they play down the stretch, but they're starting to take on a couple losses. I mean, they only have 3, but aren't really matching it up with a bunch of quality wins either.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to watch moving forward. Vanderbilt, Tech, Virginia, Florida on the 4 line feels about right. Florida's looking really good all of a sudden now.
Florida suddenly looks like a 1 seed, but they're never going to have the resume to get there.
Right.
But that is a team that is very, very dangerous at this point.
BYU, they just need to pick up a big win at some point, and then we can put them back up in that 4 seed conversation. Tennessee's playing better.
BYU, sorry, I'm gonna go back to BYU for a second before we move on. I mean, Arizona, Kansas, Texas Tech, they have now taken the 3 losses. They lost to UConn. That's their 4th. I mean, yeah, they've got wins over Nova or Clemson, but that's about it. The more you peel back the resume, Wisconsin and Miami, Florida are solid wins as well. But the more you peel it back, which you have to do with those protected seeds, the farther they fell. I was really hoping to have them higher up, and I thought I was going to, but I just couldn't get them anywhere better. And their metrics are starting to slip a little bit as well.
But Carolina Duke should be very interesting this weekend. I am very interested to see that. A Carolina win probably solidifies their bid for sure.
Absolutely.
You got Kansas wins. I think they beat Kentucky. If you add Duke to that, that's pretty solid. That if they win this weekend, that would probably put them up into that 4 seed area. They may need a little help, but
they would need. With them, the hard thing is, and like last night kind of showed it, they were up by 30 on Syracuse, and then suddenly they're up by 6. And then it just kills their predictive metrics. They have a predictive average of 30. And while I'm not the guy that's going to sit here and say, oh, end all be all is the metrics, the committee does use those to seed teams. So a predictive of 30 is going to be really hard to get past when you've got teams with predictives of like 13 in Vanderbilt or 12 for Kansas, like that you're competing with there.
It's one thing taking your foot off the gas and letting a 30-point lead get to 15, but when it gets to within 2 possessions at one point.
When the starters are still in with 10 seconds left in a game that you were up by 30, there's a problem.
Yeah. And defense is the issue. Again, we talked about that with Miami, Ohio. It's the same with North Carolina. St. John's, they're going to get their shot against UConn this weekend. Beyond that, there's not a lot of room to move up because they're just not getting good opportunities in the Big East. I mean, UConn's obviously a 1 seed. St. John's is there, and then Nova is there on the 8 line. But Nova is not exactly fully secure yet either. I mean, if they don't pick up a big win, they're 1 bad loss away from being in trouble. Yeah. And Seton Hall is almost kind of hanging around there by default in a way.
They haven't been jumped yet because the bubble is just abysmal this year. Which we'll get to in a minute.
Butler, Creighton, just about the night all of a sudden. You get blown up by Marquette if you're Creighton, and then you don't even come close against UConn, who hasn't even looked that great lately. Yeah, those are games you really needed that didn't get, and then Butler. I thought they were trending towards being in decent shape, and then they lost 2 games that they really needed to win, and it's going to be tough for them to get back into here.
Yeah, and they didn't even, with respect to Butler, before I move back up to the upper seeds there, they didn't even have to beat St. John's. They just couldn't lose 92-70 in a road game. Just kept it competitive, and that would have been okay. But then they could not lose to Georgetown at home.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting here with a loss to Creighton, a loss to Xavier, a loss to Boise State, a loss to Georgetown. These add up really quickly. None of those are tournament teams. So it's a problem.
Trying to decide what I think about Auburn and St. Louis. Because Auburn, has their share of quality wins, and, they played a really, really tough schedule. But, 20-something and 1 is 20-something and 1 too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So, I mean, for St. Louis, metric average of 23.7 and 24.3 for
Hmm.
resume and predictives respectively. There's no way you can have them at this point much lower. They're 2-0 in quad one with just the one quad two loss. Auburn, it's kind of like the North Carolina situation from last year, but like a little less extreme because they do have the 2 Q1A wins and then 4 quad ones. But I mean, 27.7 resume average, 26.3 predictive average. They're probably going to be a little underseeded just because of the volume of losses, but they should be in pretty good shape, I think, to make the tournament.
Yeah, I wasn't even all that impressed with Auburn and their win they had over Texas. I mean, they won the game, but it felt like Texas kind of gave it away a little bit in the second half, and Auburn just kind of took advantage of it, which is great. But I didn't expect Auburn to be down 10 almost midway through the second half at home
Agreed.
against Texas.
Yeah.
So,
But that being said, all that actually matters
yeah,
is
is
you get
winning
that
the
win,
game.
survive in
Yeah.
advance. I mean, we talked about it with teams playing the Penn States of the world or the Boston Colleges, Virginia. Like that's all that matters is just get the win and get out.
Auburn has enough quality wins and an incredibly tough schedule that if they just go 4 and whatever down the stretch, they're going to be in the tournament.
Agreed.
And probably well above Dayton, probably in the 10 seed area.
Absolutely. Staying in the SEC, but shifting over to Kentucky. Would love
Yes.
your thoughts on the Wildcats. I had them. They went from a 7 to a 9, and then back to a 7 last week.
Yeah, well, that
Completely
sounds about right.
throughout the week. It was ridiculous. But would love your thoughts on where they're at and what they're doing.
Which team's going to show up is the question, and in which half? I mean, they fell behind pretty quickly against Vanderbilt, never got back in it. Against Arkansas, I mean, I guess for the most part, they kind of controlled that game for the most part.
Yeah. Even with the
And
technical foul issues, I felt like they controlled it throughout.
moved Arkansas down to a 6. We got Kentucky up to the 7, so that makes some sense. Yeah, I mean, you just don't know. I mean, that team could lose to a 10 seed in the first round, or it could upset a 2 seed, depending on how they want to play that week.
Absolutely.
Um,
They need to find an identity and stick to it, and they have not done that. And that's why we're here still talking about them as a 7th seed.
Their issues are they don't defend well enough, and they don't really shoot it well enough either.
Yeah.
Bad combination.
Yeah. If you can't, if you're not Alabama, but you're also not Houston, you've got to like have something there, and they just don't have either of them at this
point. You feel like Iowa, NC State, Nova, Wisconsin, even SMU, they're like a bad loss away from being in trouble.
Agreed that they would move down, but there's a bit of a gap between, I don't know, Utah State and the rest of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of how bad. I mean, some of these bubble teams are very, very bad at this point. Indiana went from like 6th or 7th out of my field last week,
at least,
up to the top of the 10 line with just 2 wins, and that was after they did beat Purdue and then they beat UCLA. So like 2 good wins, but they jumped up like 8-9 spots. It is crazy.
St. Mary's for the most part, other than I guess Virginia Tech, has beaten really no one. New Mexico looks like a solid team. Some of the wins they have are nice, and then there's Georgia, who doesn't have much on their resume either.
Yeah.
And now they've taken a couple of home losses to against teams that it probably could have and maybe should have beaten. Miami, you could say the same thing about. Just gave up games to Cal and Florida State.
Yeah. Miami, they lost to Cal. Did they lose to Stanford? No, not Stanford.
No, they beat Stanford. So they lost to Florida State. They beat Stanford and then lost to Cal.
Cal is suddenly right there.
I mean, they just played 3 road games and won 2 and 1 of them.
Yep.
That'll work.
They went from about 5th or 6th out to shiny spot in Dayton there as the second to last team in.
One team I want to mention that's in that next 4 out, the first one there, that's San Diego State. Yeah. They have had 2 really tough losses in the last, I don't know, 10 days to 14 days. That one at the end of the game against Grand Canyon. And then, I mean, they led that game against Utah State for most of it and then just couldn't come up with a win. I thought it was actually a pretty critical moment in that first half when they were up by 10. And I think San Diego State got called for a technical foul, like maybe hanging on the rim or something.
Yeah.
That, I mean, talk about, a change of momentum there. I mean, before you knew it, the game was tied at halftime.
Yep.
Now, San Diego State kind of rebounded and opened up a lead again in the second half, so you can't really point to that technical foul as being the difference, but, it sure didn't help. Now,
anytime you give the team momentum back, it sucks.
And now, I mean, the benefit that San Diego State has is if they keep winning again, the teams just above them have not exactly shown that they're not going to lose more games.
Yeah.
So there's still a chance for them.
Absolutely. Pulling up their schedule now I want to circle back to a couple of teams up higher, but looking at they've still got Nevada, which is it'll be a quad 2 game. Grand Canyon, both at home, very winnable, very solid games. Colorado State on the road is a quad 2. Utah State at home will be a quad 1/2, right on the edge there. At New Mexico, definitely quad 1. At Boise, quad 1. So there's plenty of opportunity left for San Diego State. They just have to take advantage of it, and they can't lose to the Wyomings, the Air Forces, the Colorado States of the world.
Right.
Shifting back up, you mentioned St. Mary's. Wanted to touch on them again. They are winless in quadrant 1 at this time. Yes, the Virginia Tech win is there, but it's not quad 1, it's quad 2. And other than that, nobody's even really that close to being quad 1 at this point.
No.
They have to find some sort of win in the quadrant 1 to have really a good shot. And I mean, you're going to get Santa Clara, you're going to get Gonzaga, you're going to get there was one more, I thought.
No. It's the home game against Gonzaga, and it's the road game. Actually, they don't even
have the road game.
They're playing them at home because they lost to them on the road. So their only Q1 game left is the home game against Gonzaga at the end of the regular season.
That absolutely is a must-win situation. If that wasn't obvious, they have to have it.
It's possible if St. Mary's and Santa Clara meet in the WCC semifinals, that could be. But I don't know if that's going to matter at that point.
And as we've stated a couple times here in the podcast, we are not going to take conference tournaments and use them in the theoretical sense. If we get to the point where we're like dead split and there might be a situation, we'll talk about it conference tournament week. But those theoreticals are so dangerous. The only good thing for the WCC is their tournament's a little bit earlier. The committee might actually see and honor those results compared to others.
And I don't even know if Santa Clara, when all is said and done, will stay Q1. Because if St. Mary's beats them and if Santa Clara doesn't beat Gonzaga, I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll win by enough on their other games to stay Q1, but I'm not certain about that.
They're 33rd right now, aren't they?
44th.
Oh, just kidding. Had the wrong sheet up. Yeah, they're not a shoe-in at all. That's absolutely correct. I do have Santa Clara in the tournament right now, mainly based off of that win over St. Mary's, which is kind of a paradox in and of itself. Santa Clara could really use a win over Gonzaga.
Santa Clara, they also don't have a Q1 win. The win over St. Mary's is just in the Q2. So is the Xavier win on the road. Nevada, McNeese well into Q2. So their best opportunities at a Q1 win will be playing Gonzaga and the road game against St. Mary's.
Correct. And looking at the Xavier win, I mean, that's a 22 spot from Q1. That's staying Q2 for the rest of the year. Looking at Georgia, that was the other team you kind of mentioned hadn't really had much. Wanted to touch on them.
They don't.
There is not much on this resume at all. 41st resume metrics, 40th in the predictives, 0-2 quad 1A, but they are 3-4 in quad 1. They do have a Q3 loss, however, so kind of balances out. They are 8-6 in quads 1 through 3 overall. In good shape for a tournament bid right now, but in a very precarious situation. Of all of those 10 seeds, they're probably the worst off, and that includes the Santa Clara's or the St. Mary's of the world right now.
Maybe.
St. Mary's is right there with them. The more
Yeah, I
than
know.
yeah.
I know. I mean, the Arkansas, Auburn, Missouri wins don't really inspire that much to me anyway. We've got Arkansas now as a 6 seed. We've got Auburn as a what is that, an 8, right?
Yeah.
And then Missouri not in the field. So
But we just talked about St. Mary's, whose best
yeah,
win is Virginia Tech, who's
exactly.
in the first 4 out right now.
Right.
So that being said, I might need to update this a little bit and move St. Mary's down the more I talk. This is it's sketchy for both teams, but St. Mary's is the sketchier of the two. I take back what I said at first. However, we're just on a 3-game losing streak, and
the one thing that Georgia has that the committee tends to not like very much is the non-conference strength of schedule is 3-12.
Yep.
Just think about how bad the non-conference strength of schedule has to be for your overall to be 74 when you've now played 9 SEC games.
It's not great.
No. I mean, the Q4 wins: Long Island, Western Carolina, Morehead State, Bellarmine, West Georgia, Tennessee Tech, Florida A&M, Maryland Eastern Shore. Some of those don't even make sense to play. I get the West Georgia one. Maybe Western Carolina otherwise.
I mean, I get Maryland Eastern Shore. It's on the east side of the U.S. at least.
Okay.
It's hard to schedule teams.
I know.
Well, out there, right?
I know. But Georgia Tech not doing much for them this year either.
Correct. Moving along here, want to get down to the bubble. We've got UCLA, Miami, Florida, Texas, Cal, Santa Clara, the last 5 teams in right now. What are your thoughts? Anybody?
Don't expand the field.
This is very true. Agreed.
I guess maybe Cal will somehow get there now. I don't know,
I mean, at some point you have to start taking these teams seriously once they just continue to win and do what they need to. I mean, resume metrics 43, predictives of 59.7. They've got a quad 1A win now. 3-4 versus Q1, no bad losses.
Texas is just trending towards too many losses.
Texas scares me because they're going to have to beat some teams they're not expected to.
I can't believe we still have Oklahoma State near the field, and I can't get them out of my sheet either. They're still around 50 in the metrics, and they've beaten like no one.
I tried really hard, but I couldn't get them any further.
I know. I know.
I mean, it's rough. I have VCU considered at this point.
I see.
None of these bubble teams, and that next 4 out especially, maybe not San Diego State or Mizzou, but Oklahoma State, VCU are multiple big wins away from the field. VCU is probably going to have to beat St. Louis, and I don't even know if they get St. Louis. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head right now. I'm trying to pull it up real quick, but or maybe if they go to Dayton. Let's see here.
St. Louis or VCU plays St. Louis on the road
on the 20th.
So yeah,
that's going to be that one, and then the George Mason home game are games that need to be circled on your calendar right there because those are going to decide things.
And first, they have to take care of business against Fordham and Dayton and LaSalle and Richmond and George Washington.
You have to. I mean, they absolutely have to go 5-0 in those games. Dayton is at home. George Washington's at home. And then you get at St. Louis, home versus Fordham, home versus George Mason, and then at Dayton. You probably can lose one of those games and get in. And it better be St. Louis.
This is where teams like Richmond and UNLV in the Mountain West are just maddening because they just find a way to lose games they shouldn't and then beat teams that are in the hunt for bids.
That they also shouldn't, yeah.
Yeah. It's like they're like microcosm of each other.
Yeah. Anybody on the sheet that you have that I didn't mention that you wanted to mention?
I'm going to look through some of these fringe teams. I don't think the McNeeses or the Stephen F. Austins have much of a shot. LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State playing themselves well down of recently for the most part. Mississippi State did have the win over LSU, but all that really did was pull LSU down and further out.
That took LSU down to the barely still
Yep.
for me. Yeah.
Yep.
Oklahoma, I don't have on the page anymore for the SEC.
I don't think I do either. I have Akron kind of just on the fringe. Their predictive metrics are actually better than Miami, Ohio's. They just unfortunately didn't get the wins when they had the opportunity. You could say the same thing for Yale. Took a tough loss last weekend, I think.
Yep.
Liberty has surprisingly decent resume metrics that I didn't expect. I just don't know where they can lose.
They can't.
They
are on my page as well, just because the bubble is poor. Resumes of 53.7, predictive of 84. No quadrant 1 win. They do have 2 Q3 losses. Delaware, Missouri State, New Mexico State, UTEP, FIU, Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Louisiana Tech, Sam Houston State. Find me a quadrant 1 game there, because there's not.
I have them needing to win all of them to even have a chance.
And I don't know that they can lose in the conference tournament
right
either. So I don't know.
Who's the second best team? Sam Houston State?
Yeah.
Washington stayed alive by beating Northwestern. That's all they did. They're a long, long, long way away.
I don't have them on my page at all.
Xavier, Creighton, Butler, all just barely clinging to the bubble now.
I would give Butler the only shot out of those 3 teams, honestly.
Colorado, Arizona State, Baylor, very unlikely. Very unlikely. Yeah, I know. South Florida, we mentioned a little bit about Tulsa, Syracuse. If they don't beat Virginia coming up, good night.
Yep.
It really is good night now, but if they don't beat Virginia, then it's definitely. Other than that, we've got our 11 locks. There's a few teams that aren't going to make it due to the transition rule or other things. I did find out that it sounds like they have a little bit more of a expedited transition period than before, where if you come in during the middle of an off season, you don't have to play an entire season for that to count.
Yeah.
I think part of that has to do with summer sports and fall sports too that come beforehand. So teams St. Thomas was granted a waiver for only having to have 4 years instead of 5, but teams like Queens, Stonehill were given expedited. So that made it where they only really had to have 3. Yeah. So.
But yeah, honestly, like Mike said, I've got 13 locks right now. I know you have 11. We're getting to the point where there's not but 5 or 6 spots really up for grabs in the field. I'm not saying that a USC or an Indiana or a Utah State can't jump out. Just unless they really screw it up, it's really hard to see a lot of these teams falling out.
Because that bubble down there is so bad.
Yeah. Ohio State's a really interesting team to me. I think that there is something on that resume. They are just kind of similar to Texas. There's a lot of losses on there as well. So we'll
what's
see
what's on the Ohio State resume?
Let me pull their sheet real quick. They've got the 1 quadrant 1 win, which is what I was saying was good.
Over
pulling it real quick. Northwestern on the road.
No, doesn't count.
It's a decent win for a bubble team.
It doesn't count. Northwestern does not count this year.
But unfortunately,
I know.
Here it is.
I know.
This is what we're rolling with. No, definitely not enough to make them safe by any stretch. But there's something on that resume to where if they could knock off a Michigan or a Purdue at home, maybe we have a conversation.
But they need to actually do that.
I'm manifesting them doing that because I'm going to be there for both of those games, and I really want to be in person for a court storming. So that's what I was trying to do there. That being said, they've got Maryland, Michigan, USC Virginia is a neutral site game in Nashville. That feels very important suddenly. Wisconsin at home, Michigan State away, Iowa away, Purdue at home, Penn State away, and then Indiana at home. So plenty of opportunity here for Ohio State to jump back up into the field, but they're going to have to start winning some games.
The Virginia game, that's a big deal. Getting that in the middle of February there.
Between that one and the Duke Michigan game, those are some massive midweek games there around Valentine's Day.
We thought Memphis and Utah State was going to be the same, but Memphis not so much.
It might still be the same if Memphis wins.
Yeah, that's true.
Memphis does not have a shot this year for those of you who maybe are just getting involved. But Utah State is very much so a 9 seed and kind of just hanging out there.
Yeah, Ohio State's going to have to get at least one of those games between Michigan and Virginia, Purdue, Michigan State.
Yep, agreed.
And they need to beat Wisconsin, Indiana, and Penn State too.
Yep. Absolutely. Looking at the teams above the 10 seed line, so cutting out the Indiana, St. Mary's, Georgia, New Mexico teams, who's the most likely to miss the tournament?
I'm going to say SMU.
Ooh, nice pick. I'll go with Utah State.
For me, SMU just keeps doing just enough not to move up to near last.
Yeah.
And sometimes the longer you stay in good shape, eventually, if you don't do what you need to do, move up, move down.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
The
only thing that gives me pause with Utah State is who's their Q1 win? Is it Boise? Yeah, Boise on the
didn't
road.
They beat VCU?
Yeah, but I don't think I think that was neutral.
Yeah.
Yep, neutral site win over VCU, which is Q2. So they have the one Q1 win, which is Boise, which is not a tournament level win. So I have concerns about them, especially if they keep dropping games here shortly.
You see, with all these expanded conferences, Q1 wins are not as easily as obtained as you might think.
Absolutely. And especially, I mean, in the SEC or the Big Ten, which we've dove into the SEC and the Big 12. We'll get to the Big Ten this weekend and cover the ACC, which is actually looking like a power conference this year.
Yeah.
As well as covering the Big East, which is looking like the Mountain West at this point.
Yeah.
So we'll be back on Saturday to cover those. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.